World under your head
Got bags under your eyes.
there.
Travel bags.
Come on. Oh, we
We
haven't
have
almost
No,
started.
it just-
Right.
She just wants the AirFare.
Hi, my name is Susan Kusherik. I'm the Reference and Adult Services Librarian here at the Oregon Public Library. And we are here for credit card points and miles demystified. But before we get started, I wanted to tell you about one upcoming program. It is a murder mystery after hours. So August 7th, a couple Fridays from now, we'll be starting a murder mystery here in the library after we close. So if you're into superheroes or murder mysteries and you would like to be a potential villain or superhero, come and join us, and we'll have a little bit of fun. So it's Friday, August 7th. It starts at 6 o'clock. But you're not here for that right now. So you're here to listen to Erin. Erin Chisman has not paid full price for travel in over 5 years. She's visited places all over the world, including the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and has even hiked the Inca Trail in 2013 into Peru. She's even paid for most of her wedding with points and miles. When she's not traveling, she is the owner and of a school called Academy of Sound, where she teaches piano in English and in Spanish, and she manages the school. She also admins several popular social media accounts, such as the Oregon Wisconsin Information Facebook group, and is the vice president of the Oregon Youth Center, and enjoys hiking, biking, and reading. So I'm going to let Erin take over and tell us all how to travel for much cheaper and several other tips.
Thank you. All right. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for coming. So as Susan said, I'm Erin, and I'm going to thank my husband Adam in advance for running the slideshow for me. You probably recognize him. He works here at the library. So what I'm going to talk about is just based on my experiences. I don't claim to be an expert per se, but I will tell you that the stuff that I've done has worked, and so I'm just going to pass on kind of some beginner level information to you guys today. There's a lot more than what I'm going to tell you tonight, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with all these really highly sophisticated ways of generating points and miles, so we're just going to keep it really basic, and then there will be time for questions and answers at the end. So we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to get started. So if you want to go ahead. All right, so the first thing is what is travel hacking? And it's kind of defined officially by like the different groups that I'm parts of online as the art and science of free and discounted travel. So it's done in a variety of ways. It can be using rewards programs like frequent flyer miles, and getting those miles without necessarily flying to earn those miles, like other ways to earn the miles. Also using your everyday spending to accumulate points instead of saving up actual money for travel. So not actually spending any extra money, but using the money you already spend to generate points. So you probably know about frequent flyer programs, but what you might not know is that by using their systems combined with the right credit card rewards, it's possible to collect hundreds of thousands of miles without ever actually flying or traveling or modifying how much money you're spending in your day-to-day life. So first I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how I got started. I think it was 2004 that I got my first rewards travel card, and it was a Disney Visa card. I got an offer in the mail. It said I would earn 1% on all of the things that I spent on this card, and they were going to give me a $100 bonus, which at the time sounded really good, and right now I go, no, we can all do much better than that. But it was good. 2 years later, I had a fully paid trip for 4 of us to Disney World, and that is how I got hooked. So the bigger rewards things didn't start coming out until a little more recently. In 2010 was when I really started going for it. That's when I started strategizing and figuring out how I can modify how I'm paying for things to get it to pay me. So we'll get into that. Oh, and you probably, this is partly on the description of this event, but the biggest reason that people say they can't travel is because of money. I don't know how many times that I tell people I'm going on another trip and they're like, how do you afford it? You know, and I'm like, well, I can't afford it any more than anybody else. I just have a regular job and a regular life pretty much, and so I earn travel not by spending my own money, but by kind of taking advantage of these programs that there are. So, alrighty. So I've broken it down to kind of 6 steps for today. Like I said, we're going to keep it pretty basic. So on your handout, I did include all the slides that have the steps on them, so you guys can look at those when you're not here. Step 1, know what your credit score is. Check your credit. The website that I use, and full disclosure, I am not affiliated with any of the links I'm giving you today. I'm just giving you the links that I use for my own personal use. So creditkarma.com is absolutely free. It's a way you can check your credit basically up to the day. You can check it whenever you want. It gives you your credit score. You can view your entire Experian and TransUnion credit reports. There's a third one that I can't think of that it doesn't have on there. But do that. Everybody, even if you do nothing else that I tell you today, know your credit score, because you have all kinds of power with your credit score. So before you would start like trying to figure out how to earn miles and points and things like that, you would want to know your score. Yes, go on. Okay. And make sure that you check your credit score and your report and comb through it at least monthly. I'm a little obsessive about it. I check mine sometimes every day and at least once a week. So if anything is funny on there, I'm going to see it like right away. And that can be fraud. I mean, if somebody opens a credit card in my name, I can find out because it'll be right on there. So if your credit score, if you find that it's lower than you would like it to be, you will want to start taking steps to improve it. I'm not a credit counselor, so I'm not going to get into that, but there's lots of information online about how you can improve your credit score. So mainly, the main point from this is check your credit thoroughly. Never pay to check your credit. You'll see all kinds of stuff online that says it's free, and all of a sudden you're like paying $7.99 for a credit report. Don't do it. It's a waste of your money. Always go to this website. There are no others that I know of except the free annual credit report from the government. That's another thing. But this one you can check all the time. So don't pay to check your credit, and make sure your score is what you want it to be. Take control of your credit. All right. Step 2, sign up for loyalty programs. So this is something that you can do that's absolutely free. I have friends that I recommend, like, why, you're going on a trip, why don't you sign up for their frequent flyer program? And they'll tell me, because I'm not a frequent flyer. And I say, so what? It's like 900 miles that you're going to get for free just by signing up for this free thing. So always sign up for all the loyalty programs that you would ever possibly use. And you can sign up for them without even having travel plans with them too. So yeah, airlines, hotels, rental car companies, etc. Sign your kids up for loyalty programs as well. That's something a lot of people don't think of, but if your kids are flying with you somewhere, they're able to earn miles as well. There's a case in point here. My parents put me on Delta's loyalty program when I was a kid. I wasn't even really aware of it until I was an adult and that information got handed over to me. Last year, just from my very infrequent trips that I took throughout my younger life, I found out that I actually had enough mileage to get a free round-trip ticket. So that was actually one of the airfares that I paid for going to my destination wedding. So, all right, I put this in your notes. I know that they're really, really small. This is just a list of the main airlines, the main car rental companies, and Amtrak is even at the bottom. There's some hotel loyalty programs. All of these are free to sign up. One thing that people say to me sometimes is, well, I don't want them to have my information. My response to that is, everybody has your information already. I know a lot of us are really trying to be privacy aware and all of that, but they already have your information and they have access to it, particularly if you're traveling with them. They're going to have your information. So why not have that work for you? So the list is in there, and I apologize that it's small, but you can Google any of these and you can find them. So, does anyone have any questions so far? Yeah.
Say that I stayed at Choice Hotels and was part of their system where I have their card, then you still have to sign up for another loyalty program, or is that part of the loyalty program?
Well, there's different loyalty programs for each hotel chain. So
Right.
there's one for all the Hilton branded hotels, Choice Hotels, there's several different hotels that are under the Choice Hotels one. So you sign up for that membership once, and then what you do is every time that you stay with them, you include that number in your reservation. There's always a place for that, or they'll ask you if you're making a phone reservation.
Right.
So then those points get credited to your Choice, I think
So
it's called Choice Privilege
So
accounts.
then if I got that card, I'm already part of the loyalty program?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, you should be, yeah.
I have a question to that, the credit check you do.
Oh, yeah.
Because you look, does that take points away?
No, it doesn't. You are, by law, allowed to check your own credit report as much as you want. It's just that until recently, companies were charging money to give you access to your own credit, which is really, I think ethically that's wrong, because you're legally entitled to know what's on your credit report, and you should. It's your responsibility as an American citizen to know what's on there. So, yeah, so no, there's 3 different levels of credit checks. There's self-checks, which do nothing to your credit, to harm your credit in any way. There's a soft check, which I don't remember exactly what that is, and then there's a hard check, which is like when you go to apply to refinance your house, or buy a car, or apply for a credit card. And a hard check does bring your score down usually 2 to 5 points for 2 years. So when you apply for credit anywhere, you will see that your credit score drops for a little while. Just a couple points, but if you do that a lot, it can add up. So yeah, that's a good question. Anybody else before we move on?
How about stopping a credit card or canceling it? Does that lower it too?
It can. Again, I'm not a credit expert. I can tell you from my own experience, that Disney Visa card that I mentioned at the very beginning, that card I've had since 2004, and I was a very young adult then, so that was like the first card I could really get. And I keep that card even though I don't use it anymore, because you should always keep your oldest line of credit active on your credit report. So I use the card once a year for a coffee at the Firefly or something, and that's it. And that keeps it active, and it doesn't cost me anything to keep it. But yeah, you should keep your oldest credit card. When you go and you cancel credit cards, it can affect your credit score negatively, usually not very much. And also, like, a lot of people have the misconception that if you have like a lot of credit cards, if you have too many, that can bring your score down, and that hasn't been my experience. I have 22 credit cards right now, so, and my credit score is above 800, so it doesn't bring mine down. But yeah, if you start going crazy and canceling a bunch of stuff and it looks like you've panicked, it can bring it down. Yeah. All right, so step 3, and very important to do these in order. You really need to know your credit before you start doing anything like this. I picked my favorite card, and I don't get any money from them for recommending this. I actually called and asked them if I could give you guys a special link so you could sign up and I could get some bonus points, and they won't do it. So I'm recommending this even though they won't give me any points for it. You want to sign up for a high rewards earning credit card. Just one. If you don't have any, you just want one to start. This one is nice because it doesn't have an annual fee, so it'll never cost you anything to own this, to have this card. I don't care about this because you shouldn't do this if you're ever going to let a credit card carry a balance. So the 0% intro APR doesn't matter. For me, it's 0% all the time because it gets paid off right away. This one has a $100 bonus after you spend $500 on purchases. That's a 20% return, so it's pretty good. Now, what they don't tell you is that the $100 bonus comes in the form of 10,000 points, and you can make your points more valuable. The points are worth usually about 20% more than the actual cash. So if you ever get an offer to like take cash out of your bonus thing, don't do it. Keep it in points. Keep it in points. I know cash is it's like, ooh, cash. No, it's worth way more than that if you find the right way to spend it. So you want to kind of hang on to those points and keep letting them build up. So I'll come back to more on that once we get through kind of the other steps. Okay, so with that one credit card that you get that's a high points earning credit card, you want to pay with everything you possibly can. Pay for everything that you possibly can with that card. That means if you're spending $2 at the dollar store, use the card. You're getting points for those. Sometimes you're getting extra bonus points because of certain stores and things like that. The card that I just showed you right now is giving a 5% bonus on gasoline. So every time you pay at the pump, you get 5% of what you just paid back in the form of points. And the points, like I said, are worth about 20% more than the cash would be. So 5% plus 20% of that, there's a lot of math involved, but you want to make sure you put all of your expenses that you possibly can on the credit card and then pay it off at least monthly. I've become so obsessive with this that I actually tend to pay mine off more like once a week because I don't ever want any balance to carry over. The second that you accrue, you can go to the next thing. Oh, and use cash only when you have to. This one. No, that's not the, never mind. Okay, well, I'll just explain. The second that you accrue an interest or fee, it negates all the points that you just earned. So it takes a lot of discipline, but you use it on your regular expenses. It's not like you go out and you go spending crazy because suddenly you have this lucrative credit card. You have to still keep your spending in check and live within your means. The nice thing about it is for me that I'm only having to pay off one thing. Like it's this credit card that I'm using. I don't have to pay 50 different places. It's all going onto one card, pay that all at once. And for me, that's simpler. And I'm getting, bonus points from it. So sometimes you will still see places that will charge you a fee to use a credit card. I know there's a couple places here in town that still do that. It's becoming less and less, and there have actually been some restrictions put on it legally that they can't charge over 4.25% of your transaction if you want to use a credit card. So let's say you're getting your hair done somewhere and you get up to the counter and they're like, you're going to pay with a card, it's going to be 3% more. Then don't do it, because most of the time that 3% fee is more than what you'll get back in points. I mean, you still can if it's just simpler to use your card. It's not a huge deal, but just when you're thinking about value of what you're paying versus the points, if it's 3% or above, I recommend that you find another way to pay.
Do you have two questions?
Yeah.
One, will they always tell you if they have a percentage fee on your credit card if you charge it?
They're supposed to.
Okay.
That's supposed to be disclosed to you.
And you would probably know, I mean, we go to city stores all the time, so.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you said if you didn't pay it off, you would lose points that you had accrued. Which points?
Okay, yeah. Let me clarify that a little bit. So let's say you're carrying a balance, you've charged $150 to your card, okay? You go and you pay off $50 of that. So you're carrying a balance then of $100 past the due date. What that due date really is a grace period. The second that you charge your credit card, it's already accruing interest. But the credit card companies give you this grace period of usually 30 to 45 days to pay it all off, which means pay it to zero. So if you go past that and you're carrying any balance, all that interest that's been accruing in the background gets tacked on, plus continues to get tacked on a daily basis after that. So it's not that they're not going to go and dig into your points that you've earned and take them away. It's that the value of the points becomes nothing because you are paying more than what you paid for the services that you got, if that makes sense. You're paying more than what you charged on the card. You don't ever want to pay more than you actually charged on the card. So late fees, interest fees, you don't want those. So that's why it's always really important you have to pay it off right away. People get really nervous about credit cards because they automatically think high interest, lots of fees, lots of hidden fees and all of that. If you're paying it off regularly and always before the due date and always in full, you're only going to get the benefits. You're not going to have the fees and things like that. So, all right, so examples of everyday expenses, just because some of these things you don't think of. Netflix subscription, although I think the only way you can actually pay for Netflix is with a credit card. Don't use a debit card, use a credit card. Health insurance premiums, a lot of places will let you pay online with a credit card. Medical bills and co-pays, when you're picking up a prescription, even if it's $1, credit card, because you're getting points. Just pay it off. Groceries, fuel, there's lots of bonuses on fuel. There's a lot of good cards for extra points on buying gas. Dining out, there's a lot of good cards that give you more than a 1% on dining out. Tuition for places if you're going to college or you have kids that are in dance or music schools or karate schools or whatever. tuition for yourself and for your kids. Most places take credit cards for that now. Coffee, lattes, other treats, McDonald's, everything, yeah. So those are just some examples to kind of get you thinking about, like, what could I modify in my own life that I'm currently paying for in cash, or writing a check, or whatever, that I could optionally pay with a credit card and start earning some points on that. So, all right, step number 5, getting organized. So in the beginning of, I'm gonna call it, of like doing this hobby, if you just have one credit card, it's usually not too overwhelming. They mail you the bill, you pay it, or you go online and you just pay it. Not a big deal. When you start to get to the point where I am with it, where, like I said, I've got 22 credit cards, I've got all kinds of savings accounts that were special deals that give like higher interest, I've got like lots of stuff. It's really nice to have it all managed in one place. There's a website called mint.com, which is also free. I use it, lots of my friends use it. You can basically have it import all of your financial data into one place. You can't modify it or transfer anything out of there. It's just simply a place to view it all at once. So I can see all of my credit cards in one spot. I can see all my checking accounts, my savings accounts, any kind of IRA or 401k. If you have like a Scottrade account for stocks, even my mortgage is in there. Everything, you know, you can all see in one place. It automatically gives you pie charts and all kinds of neat stuff if you like to play around with pie charts and graphs. You can go pretty far with it, but at its simplest, it's just a place to view all your stuff at once. So if you were to start getting into this and interested in it, you would you'd want to be as organized as possible. It also gives you reminders of when your credit cards are due, which is nice. It will even send you text messages to your phone like 5 days before they're due as well, so you never miss a due date. So, all right. So spending your points efficiently. Oh, does anybody have questions about any of that stuff that I just covered? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Do points expire?
I can't speak for all of the programs. I can say that the Chase Ultimate Rewards program, which is my favorite program, they don't expire. Sometimes frequent flyer miles will expire. There's ways to prevent them from expiring by just doing a little tweak here or there. Trying to think, like, okay, so like Delta miles, I think they expire after 18 months of your last transaction. So if you fly on Delta more than once every 18 months, it keeps them all from expiring. Like, as soon as you fly on Delta, it makes all your miles then renewed for another 18 months. But if you're not going to fly that often and you happen to have the Delta credit card, all you have to do is charge one item to it once every 18 months to do the same thing as if you were to take a trip on one of their planes. So miles will tend to expire. As far as I know, I can't think of any points programs where it's strictly like generating points from credit cards where they expire. I don't think they do. That's a good question. Anybody else have anything? Okay. So spending your points efficiently. This gets a little more into the intermediate things, so if I lose you, stop me. I can re-explain at any time. So let's say that you get that first card that I showed you, which is called the Chase Freedom Card, and you charge $1,000 to it, which is equal to 1,000 points, plus whatever bonus points. For now, we're just going to make it easy and say you've got 1,000 points sitting in a Chase Ultimate Rewards points account. That generally is worth $10. You move the decimal place over 2 places to the left, so 1,000 points becomes $10. That's the very lowest value you can get from that. That's like what I talked about, the cash value. If you were to just take cash, that's what it would be. If you happen to have one of Chase's premium cards, like this one, you can transfer those points for free at no loss to this card and have them be worth 20% more. So what I do for my strategy is I tend to earn most of my points like I spend on the Chase Freedom Card. I never use the points from there. I always transfer them to this card and spend them there because they're worth 20% more. So $100 in points transferred to this card would be worth $120. So how do you get that to happen? Well, there's just this portal online. You go to ultimaterewards.com. You can see all of your accounts there. You just transfer from one to the other. and then you can book travel, you can do whatever you want with points. So my advice is to never spend your points at that moving the 2 decimal places thing. Don't spend them at that. Find a better way to spend them. This is just one example of a great way to spend them, is to transfer them to a premium card. And I did put a link for this one on here with a QR code. I know this is a really long address, but this, if you aim your phone at this with one of those QR code readers, it takes you right to the thing. This is not the first card you should ever get though. Like if you were starting out in this, you'd want to get something like the Chase Freedom card to start. Just don't use the points on there. Just keep earning them, and then later on get this card and move them over. Does that make sense?
Are those two related?
They are. They're both owned by Chase
And then,
Bank.
so what do you have to do to get the Sapphire?
To get this one,
Yeah.
you would just apply for it. Like if you went to this link or used the QR code, you would just apply for the card. This one you do have to have a very good or excellent credit score, so generally anything like 700 or above, which is why you want to know your credit score, because if you apply for this card and say your credit score is 650, first of all, you're going to get a hit on your credit, you're going to go down a few points just for applying, and you're not going to get the card. So the Chase Freedom card, you just have to have good or better, which I think is 600 or better. That one, yeah, I don't want to say that for sure. That's something that you could easily look up, what's considered a good credit score, what's an excellent credit score. Actually, Credit Karma will tell you which category you're in. That first website that I talked about where you can check your credit. So
if you have excellent, do you go for this one first or no?
you could. It's not, you don't earn as many points on this. Like this one it does get some bonuses. You get double points on travel and dining. Travel also includes parking fees, taxi, rental car, hotel, airfare, anything that has to do with travel or transportation, you get 2 points. And then dining, it includes like fast food like McDonald's all the way up to fine dining, anything. This card is great because we've done some international travel and you can use this in other countries with no foreign transaction fees, which is great. And it converts, so like when we were in Mexico a couple months ago, if they were only charging it in pesos, this card knows the exchange rate and it does it, and it's not a ripoff, and yeah.
So then do you end up paying that $95 annual fee after your first year, or do you have a way that you avoid that?
I pay it because I've had the card a long time.
Okay.
I have heard that a lot of people can get the second year free as well, just by simply calling and saying, I'm thinking about canceling this card. Can you do anything for me? I saw that there's this $95 fee that's popped onto my statement. I'm not too excited about it. I like the card, but I'm thinking about, you can, and then, well, insider information, if the first person says no, just call back and get somebody else in the call center and they might be willing to do something. They will usually offer you something if you call and say you want to cancel a card. Sometimes it will be bonus points. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, we'll give you 10,000 bonus points if you stay. And at that point, 10,000 bonus points at the least is worth $100. So then that pays for this. With this card also, it has primary rental car insurance. I just was in Tampa last week and rented a car for a week. And I used this card to pay for it. As long as you use this card to pay for the whole thing, you don't even have to disclose your personal auto insurance information because this card covers everything. So if something had happened to that car while I was in possession of it, my insurance company here would never have known. Only this card would have known because they're primary. That's a newer thing that a lot of cards, well, not a lot, some of the premium cards are doing that where they're including some primary insurance. It also has other travel insurance, like if you lose a bag on a plane, your bags get lost, or your flights are super delayed, like more than 12 hours, it'll pay for a hotel. It's pretty nice. Everything that I found is worth the $95 fee because if you rent more than one car a year, you're going to be paying way more than that for the insurance on the car anyway. You have to decline the insurance that they offer you at the counter for the rental car when you pick it up as well. You have to sign a thing, but you're fine because this card covers it. So.
Plus they cover the collision waiver insurance. So if you're in Timbuktu someplace and rent a car and it gets smucked, they can't charge you. This will take care of the the time that it's laid up. Could be a month, could be 2 months, could be 2 years, you know, but they pay it, you don't pay it, and it doesn't count against you.
Are you talking about for a rental car or for your own car?
No,
rental
rental
car.
car.
For the rental car, yeah, I mean, they'll just give you a different car. If something happens to the car that you're driving, they're supposed to give you a different car.
Well, yeah.
Thankfully, I've never had it happen, so I can't speak from experience, but I've read the disclosures like multiple times, and that's how I understand it to
But
be, yeah.
if you damage the car and you take it back, it's still drivable, and you take it back at the end of the term,
Mhm.
you take it back, you drop on them, and you walk away.
Yeah, yeah, the insurance on this covers that.
Yeah.
Whether it was your fault or somebody else's fault, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also like roadside assistance with this. I think you still have to pay something for it, but it's much less. Towing is less. It's a really good card to have because it includes so many benefits. But with that said, it doesn't have any 5% bonuses, it has 2%. Two times is 2%. So when the Chase Freedom card, like right now, has 5% on gas, it's much more lucrative for me to use the Chase Freedom card to pay for gas. But if I'm doing dining or travel stuff, this card, 2% is better than 1%. You're getting double the points. So what I do is I make a point strategy because things change every quarter. And I do this for Adam as well, for his cards. We double up on the cards, so he's earning stuff and I'm earning stuff, and we can combine them, and it's really great. So I make a point strategy so I know, and he knows, which card to use when you're dining out, which card to use for gas, which card to use for office supplies, because those categories can rotate each quarter. So, yeah, it doesn't take that much time to do. You just have to read the stuff they send you in your email. It's like, oh, this quarter, you get 5% at Kohl's and on gas and at Home Depot. Okay, write it down. Leave a little note in your car that says, make sure you use the Chase Freedom at these places, and leave it there. That's what we do,
I
so.
even put it on my phone calendar, so I'm always looking at that, so I can
Yeah.
figure away what are the rewards for that.
Mhm. Yep, exactly.
Some of these
So-
credit cards have got, you just mentioned, you got Freedom, you got Sapphire, you got this, you got that. How many different names do they have, and how do you figure
Oh,
out which
there's
one to use?
there's thousands of them. I mean, Chase alone has well over 50 different cards. So the two that I've shown you so far are both with Chase. Chase happens to just be my favorite because their points are the most lucrative. They're really easy to spend, there's no blackout dates, you don't run into any issues with those points. When you're ready to spend them, you go in the portal and you spend them. I'm going to show you an example. Like I said, I just got back from Tampa last week. That was a very last minute trip. I had some business to attend to down there, and I asked my daughter if she wanted to go, and I looked, and it's like, well, we've got, 200,000 points. That'll cover us easily, and we only spent about, well, not even that much. I have a little chart that I'll show you how I did it, but yeah, so there are all kinds of companies that have credit cards. Your local bank has credit cards. Generally, the more local it is, unfortunately, as much as I love to support local, they're not going to be able to offer you the percentages that a bigger company like Chase is. So I always recommend to do like your checking and savings and your general daily banking stuff with local banks and support them in that. But when it comes to getting a credit card, first of all, don't get a debit card at all because there's security issues with that. And if you do have a debit card, never use it with a PIN unless you're absolutely required. Always use it as credit because then you're protected by either MasterCard or Visa through their protections. When you type in that PIN, you've basically signed away all of the protections that are included with that little Visa or MasterCard logo. But I do not recommend ever to use debit card because some of them have some rewards, but most of the rewards are not really worth writing home about. So I'm just showing you Chase cards because I happen to really like the way that their reward system works, and it's really easy to figure out, especially for beginners. All right, so points are currency. As I kind of talked about before, you're just moving, this is like the lowest possible value of 10,000 points is $100. Moving the decimal place two places to the left to convert it. But then this example is like with using the Sapphire Preferred. If I transfer 40,000 points over to the Sapphire Preferred, they are suddenly worth $500. It's a big difference, $400 versus $500. That could get you the difference between one round trip plane ticket to two, just by moving those points to that other card. So you definitely want to do that. So points are worth 20% more that way in that specific example. In this example, 35,000 miles. Now I've talked a lot about credit card points, and I do want to touch on like the frequent flyer miles programs too. When I talked about how my parents had signed me up for Delta when I was younger, and then I was able to use those miles to buy my plane ticket to my destination wedding this past December. I had 35,000 miles. The ticket was going to be $675. So in this case, it was much better to use miles than points. Generally, miles and points are worth the same. You don't have to do a conversion. 35,000 miles is generally the same as 35,000 points. So whether you're earning them on a credit card or through flying around the world or whatever. But in this case, this is like almost double the value. Do you kind of see the math in that? Because if I'm moving the decimal place 2 places to the left, this should have been worth about $350, but I got $675 worth out of it. And you know what? Now I'm remembering. That actually was 2 plane tickets. That was me and Adam's tickets, wasn't it? Yeah. We got a really, it was just like Delta was having this thing where you could get, I think it was 15,000 or 20,000, like somewhere in between their miles, round trip. So yeah, 2 plane tickets we got for 35,000 miles. So that was really good. And many times transferring points to a mileage program will give you more value as seen above. Okay, so the other thing that you can do is you can transfer, if you have Ultimate Rewards points through one of those Chase cards, if you move them to the Sapphire Preferred card, you can also move them from there to United Airlines and a couple others. But United is usually the best deal. So sometimes that's worth more and sometimes it's not. And I have an example of where it's actually sometimes not good to do that. So this is my example. So these are real numbers that are for the trip that I took that I just got back last Wednesday. I was gone for a week. So I'm going to hop over here really quick. So this was flying round trip from Madison to Tampa, back to Madison, 2 tickets. So what it would have been if we would have paid just regular money for the tickets was $658.40. Using Chase Ultimate Rewards points at that, remember how they're worth 20% more? It would be 52,672 points. So moving that decimal point 2 places to the left, that made a $658 ticket really only cost $526. So pretty good. This one is in bold because that's what I decided to do. That was the better deal. Over here, I had the option to transfer 50,000 points to that airline. Why didn't I do that? Because the fees were going to be $170 out of pocket, and that was not worth it to me. So I decided to pay for the whole thing with points. It cost that much. Does that make sense so far? Okay. Sometimes these fees are not as much, and sometimes it's more worth it to transfer them, and then you'll use less points or miles to get the same exact flights. Okay, so then the rental car thing, in dollars, the total was $227.02 for a very compact car that my 14-year-old daughter named T-Swift because it was red and somehow a small red car was like Taylor Swift. I didn't really understand then, and I still don't, so I'm telling you because maybe somebody here understands. So $227.02. This is also in bold because this is what I decided to do. Because if I would have paid for it in points, this looks pretty good. That's basically, again, moving the decimal point, $120.82. But I would have had to purchase the insurance, which is going to be a lot and would not protect me as well as paying for this with that Chase Sapphire Preferred card and getting the insurance included. I really like to make use of my $95 annual fee as well. Like, it feels good to like take advantage of those benefits. So this was definitely the better deal. And there was no option to use miles to pay for the rental car. So what I ended up spending, oh, and we stayed with friends, so that was great too, so we didn't have to pay for lodging. So what I ended up spending was $227.02, 52,672 points, and 0 miles. What I ended up earning from this, you have to think about this too because you're generating points as you're spending. I earned 454 points from spending this because you have double points on travel. So doubling that number is this. And because, according to the airline, I had paid for those airline tickets outright. Between my daughter and I, we earned 4,484 miles on American Airlines. So to me, that's a pretty good deal. When I start moving decimal places around, this out-of-pocket amount that I paid compared to what I earned looks pretty comfortable to me to spend a week in a really nice place away from everything. So, especially since it was such a last-minute kind of thing, I think we booked it like 4 days before we left. So usually prices are really high then, but we got in on a pretty good deal. So yeah, so I didn't have to pay insurance on the rental car because I used the Sapphire Preferred, which has primary insurance, and then I still earned miles on the flight since the airline's perception is that I paid for the tickets outright. Anybody have questions about this at all? Or anybody think the numbers look weird and not understand why I made the choices I made or anything like that?
So with that particular credit card and using your miles, you can go just about on any airline? Or-
Yes,
Okay.
you can.
Yeah.
Essentially you can, because you can, if you go to ultimaterewards.com where your rewards are kind of kept in this bank, you can just search for flights, and it's almost every airline. I know they have all the main ones. They've got Delta, United, American, what used to be US Air, which is now American, several others. Frontier is on there, yeah, even some of the smaller ones are on there. So it searches for the best price, and then it gives you a 20% discount on the points right away because you're using it through the Sapphire Preferred. Now, that same portal, Ultimate Rewards, is available through that Chase Freedom Card. You're going to be paying, instead of 52,672 points, you would pay 65,840 points. It's a big difference. So that's why I say, like, earn them on the Freedom Card, transfer them to the Sapphire Preferred, spend them there. Yeah, any other questions?
Is it,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
international airlines as well?
Yes. British Airways is on there.
KLM, Swiss
Lufthansa.
Air.
What?
KLM, Swiss Air.
Yep, I know
Lufthansa.
KLM is on there, yeah. And a lot of, like American Airlines has all these partner airlines, some of those international ones, so anything that's a partner of American or United is all on there. Sometimes those flights are branded as United or United or American flights, but you're really getting on like a Lufthansa plane or a British Airways plane. Yeah. Alrighty. Oh, and I'm sorry, you had a question too.
Yeah, okay, I got a Bank America card, I can't transfer those points, can I?
Bank of America, you wouldn't be able to, no. You might be earning points on that one. I don't have any cards from Bank of America, so I'm not sure how their portal spending and stuff works, but.
But anything they got for sale, I don't want, so. I just cash it in.
Okay.
I don't need a blender.
Yeah, okay. Oh, it's one of those where you
Well, I
get like.
don't know that, I saw a catalog and there was nothing in there that I wanted.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember Northwest Airlines used to send you a catalog if you had a certain amount of miles, and they'd try to get you to spend them on like blenders and stuff, or like magazine subscriptions. You've all seen that, right? And so, yeah, and some places will still try to do that, and they're really just trying to trick people into giving up their points for something that's kind of worthless, so don't do that.
But
Definitely don't do that.
If you're traveling down the road and you just, I don't make reservations ahead, I go as far as I go and then I stop,
Yeah.
and the lights went on.
You know.
I stop, so I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I know nobody, but can I use points then when I check into the motel?
You would have to actually, like if you had a smartphone or a computer, you'd have to go on there and book it really quick, but you can do that from the parking lot. And then you can go in and be like, I have a reservation. I've done it. So, you know, yeah, because I've done the thing where you're on a big road trip, you don't know where you're going to stop. You want to, oh yeah. Well, see, that's what my husband has too. So I'm the one with the smartphone. But what you can do is you can use a card that earns double points, you know, and you'd be paying for it outright, but you'd be earning more on it. So, so that you could do without a smartphone, as long as you have the card in your wallet.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you have a question?
actually, yeah, because that reminded me, I was wondering, how many credit cards do you take with you then?
Oh, I don't take all 22. I have, my wallet's in here. I have 6 cards in there right now because my point strategy for this quarter utilizes all 6 of those. So I have the Chase Freedom Card, always, that's always in there. I have the Chase Sapphire Preferred. I have always one of my airline cards. I have like a United card, I have an American card, and I have a Delta card. And if I know that I'm going to be wanting to do some travel, I might save that one and use it on things that none of my other cards are going to get a bunch of points on. All the airline cards get like 1%. So it's not a great deal, but it's like better than nothing. And I have my Target card because Target gives you 5% off for using it, and 5%, I look at that as, well, I'm not earning any rewards on it, but I'm getting 5% off, so that's good. So yeah, I don't earn points on that. There was this really cool thing where they had this other kind of Target card that you could earn points on, but they stopped doing that, so.
It's your sales tax.
Yeah, basically it's taking off your sales tax. So yeah, I keep like 5 or 6 usually in my wallet because I only keep the ones that are part of my point strategy, so I don't inadvertently pull the wrong one and go, oh no, I could have earned 5%, I just earned like 1%. That kind of stuff kills me inside. Like, you know, and I've done that. Like I've accidentally handed the wrong card, and when they hand it back, I'm like, can you refund me? And I'm in the McDonald's drive-thru. Can you void it and do the? No. It was $5. Deal with it. You know, it's hard. It hurts. So the other thing, I didn't talk about this a lot, but credit cards oftentimes have these sign-up bonuses. There'll be something like spend $3,000 in the first 3 months, and it'll give you 50,000 points. When you're looking at those, my general rule is that if any bonus offer is less than 50,000 miles or points, I don't do it. Because they will run specials that will be all of a sudden 70,000 points or miles for that card. You just have to watch for them, and a lot of times you will get those in the mail. I know we all hate like our junk mail stuff, but that's where you get targeted by their marketing department. They've already run a soft check on your credit, and they know that you can get the card. They will send you a thing. In fact, I know Adam just got one the other day for 70,000 Delta miles because they must have run his credit and they see that he doesn't yet have the card. And so instead of the typical 30,000, they're doing it's either 60 or 70,000 for that card, but it's targeted certain people. So watch for those. If one of them's above 50,000 miles and you think you can use it and you can figure out how to use it, you might want to go for it. The only card that I recommend to do less than that is the Chase Freedom. They're going to give you 10,000 points, but you only have to spend $500 in like 3 months. That's pretty easy for most of us to do, just charging our regular expenses. So, all right. So yeah, these are my additional tips. Always, always, always pay off the credit card balance before the due date. If you can't, cut up the card and walk away, because it will never be worth it. I know people who've gotten into trouble with this where they have not been able to pay, and they do cut off your points at some point when you haven't paid your credit card in a while or you're not following the agreement or whatever. They will cut off all your points, so you don't want to get in that situation. So if if you're not able to be disciplined, or it's just not a good time in your life to be disciplined with it, wait, don't do it now. Shopping portals. I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but Delta Airlines, for example, you can go on there and you can go shop through Delta, I think it's called. And if you click the link to like Amazon, from that, what it does on the technical side is it puts a cookie in your browser that says that you've clicked on Amazon through Delta, and you're going to earn, I think it's like 2 or 3% miles in addition to the points that you're going to earn on the credit card you use to pay for it. So total, you might earn like 7% rather than 1%. Some of it's going to come in the form of miles with Delta, some of it's going to come in the form of points on your credit card. This again it's going to be one of the more intermediate things, and I wouldn't expect anybody to understand that or utilize that a lot in the beginning, but it is an option. Chase Ultimate Rewards has a shopping portal. I know that they rotate the percentages, but if you go through their portal, it's really, you're just clicking an extra link to get to a website you were going to buy something from anyway, say Kohl's.com or something. And all of a sudden, instead of getting 1%, you're getting like 7 or 8%. Just by taking the time to log in through their portal, click on the link there to get to the same website you were going to buy from anyway. So that's what a shopping portal is. Follow points and miles bloggers like myself. And then my favorite one to follow is called The Points Guy. That's where I get my up-to-date information. Every morning I have the Points Guy's stuff downloaded to my Kindle. That is like reading like the equivalent of like the morning paper. And I read about like Chase is offering 70,000 miles on this card today. And I don't do all of those things, but I feel like knowing that if a situation comes up or one of my friends is talking about, hey, I'm thinking about getting this card, I can go, oh yeah, I read about that. If there's going to be a better deal next week, wait for it. Or no, they just got done running that promotion, you can't get in on it now. You know, it's great to just have the knowledge. I'm one of the people that's really obsessive with it though, so like I actually really enjoy reading it. Some of you might be super bored by it, and it might not be your thing, but I don't know. I love it. All right, set a goal. This is something that Adam and I did back in like 2011. We said we want to see Machu Picchu within 2 years. Machu Picchu is in Peru. It's really hard to get to. We took the really hard way to get there and walked a 26-mile trail in the mountains to get there. I wouldn't do that again, but you don't have to do that. But that was our goal, see Machu Picchu within 2 years, and we did it in April of 2013. We went to Peru. We paid entirely for the $1,300 some airplane tickets. We paid with points and miles. Most of the lodging we paid with points. The only thing we really paid for out of pocket was the food and stuff while we were there. So set a goal and see if you can do it. And when a new card arrives, so if you decide to get like the Chase Freedom card or something, when it arrives it's going to come with this packet of information. Most people are going to toss it in the trash. Do not toss it in the trash, especially if you get the Sapphire Preferred. The reason is all those benefits that I just told you about are detailed in there. So read the enclosures, put them away for a day, and then read them again. And if you still feel like it's overwhelming, read them again. Do not throw them away. That is your packet to benefits of this credit card. I don't know if you know this, but some cards that are Visa cards, they just say Visa, and other ones say Visa Signature. Has anybody ever noticed that? Most cards that just say Visa also have the same version of the card, but with Visa Signature. And sometimes all it takes is calling the credit card company and saying, hey, I noticed that mine's just a regular Visa. Could I get a Visa Signature with the same card? Can you upgrade me, basically? And a lot of times they will. Why would you do that? Because Visa Signature includes all kinds of benefits. You can return an item up to it, like, it's either 90 or more, possibly more than that, days after the receipt expires. Like, you know, if you buy, like, I don't know, what would you return? Somebody give me an example of something you'd return.
Scott Walker's shirt from Kohl's.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
All right, let's use that one. Scott Walker's shirt from Kohl's that they paid him for, right?
Right,
Yeah.
it's down to that, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's got a receipt.
He's got a receipt for the money they paid him to take the shirt. Yeah, no. Well, I think we won't use that one as an example. It's got to be something you actually paid for. Let's say that you buy a new blender and from Target, and the receipt expires in 30 days, and it breaks, or you just don't like it, and it's 6 months later. If you bought that with a Visa Signature card, you can actually return it and get your money back. Even though Target won't take it, your credit card company will reimburse you. So, Visa Signature. What's that?
So who do you take it to?
I don't think you have to take it to anyone. I think it's literally just a call. I've never actually done it, but I know it exists because I know people do it.
So they lie about it and say, I don't like this damn thing, and they give you your money
Wow.
back and you keep on using it, that thing. Who do you
No,
send it to?
I think they must have some way that they can get it so you can take it back to the store. Like, I don't know exactly the ins and outs, but I know it's a real thing, that it extends all of your receipts, you know, a certain amount of time beyond the regular return period. And there's a price match thing too, where like, let's say you go buy a dishwasher somewhere, a really like a bigger price item, and within 60 days that price drops $200, you can actually get the $200 refunded to you. That comes from your credit card company, not the business that you bought it from. So Visa Signature, yeah, just like if you have credit cards, just take a look. MasterCard has a version of it too. It's called World MasterCard versus just regular MasterCard. So yeah, make sure you read your enclosures. The Visa Signature cards come with different enclosures than the regular Visa cards, even if it is the same exact card, aside from that. So, frequently asked questions. These are things that I see a lot of people talking about online in the groups that I'm in, because a lot of us have a lot of cards and we don't want to mess up our credit. How long should you wait between credit card applications? I will tell you that in general, I try to wait 6 months unless a super good deal comes along. If there's some kind of a 70,000 bonus point thing and I just got a card a month ago, I'm going for it. I don't care if it takes my credit score down 5 points for a little while. That is fine with me because 70,000 bonus points are going to be worth almost $1,000 when I transfer them. So, yeah. Is there a limit to how many cards I should have at one time? This is really like a personal choice thing. Most people don't start out with 22 cards. I know I didn't. I started out with one, and I had it for 6 years before I added another card. And after that, it was like a year. You know, I was only adding one a year since 2010, and then all of a sudden, there were a lot of bonuses in the last couple of years, so I racked up a lot of cards. So it's kind of just how comfortable you are. And I wouldn't be trying to spend money on all of them at the same time if you have a lot of cards, because you're going to get, at some point, you're going to forget to pay one of them, and then it negates those points and miles. Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, I gotta remember.
Do you want me to come back?
No, the cards will, I mean, you have a limit that you put on the cards, and that's your own discretion. You can say, well, I don't want more than $5,000 credit line. Or they'll give you $50,000, you call them up and say, hey, knock it back to $10,000.
Sure.
And I've done that because I was told by one financial advisor that if you've got 10 cards at $50,000, basically they'll look at it and say, oh, he's got the propensity to spend $500,000, and can he pay for it? You know, right out front. And they're going to say, no way, Jose. So they lower things down, or they'll make it tougher for you to get another one at a different time. So you lower the cap on the thing, and that way they don't look at it as if you've got that disposable income through credit.
Right. So there's this thing called debt to, no, it's not that one. There's debt to income ratio, which is one thing. There's debt to credit available. That's the ratio that I'm thinking of right now. So if you have a card with a $50,000 limit, but you only have a $300 balance on it, which you're paying down to zero, so basically you've got $50,000 of credit on one card. Yeah, when you start multiplying that by multiple cards, it can kind of come back to bite you. Usually, when you get a card, they assign you a credit limit on it. You can definitely call them and request that to be lowered. If it's a Visa signature card, I think it has to be a $10,000 credit limit, or it might be $6,000. I'd have to check on that one. So sometimes if you take it down to $5,000 credit limit, for example, you're going to end up losing that Visa signature part, so you might want to not do that there. But yeah, and you can also call and increase your credit limit. You can put a request for that as well, but unless you really have to, I don't really see why you would. I know when I converted one of my cards from regular Visa to Visa signature, I had to increase my credit line a little bit, a couple $1,000. It wasn't a big deal. So yeah. So how do you do this without going into debt? I just cannot hammer the point home enough that you never actually want to go into any debt doing this hobby. You have to pay it off all the time. So like I said before, if you can't pay it off, cut up the card. Is there one more? Can I transfer points to airlines? I touched on this a little bit with the Chase Ultimate Rewards. You can transfer those to certain airlines. Sometimes it's worth it and sometimes it's not. You just have to look at what the fees are going to be to spend those points. Because all airlines, when you use points or when you use miles on the airlines, they all have a certain amount of fees. It can be anywhere from $5 all the way to like $85, $90. If you're going to a foreign country, sometimes there's some foreign fees as well. So that is it. So most of that was beginner information. I did touch a little bit on some intermediate stuff, and there's, like I said, you can go way down the rabbit hole with this hobby if you want to. I have, and I love it, and it's made it so I don't ever pay much of anything for travel, and can pretty much decide if I wanted to go to Costa Rica next week, I could probably just do that without paying for it. So anybody have questions? Yeah.
If you have so many, but if they all cost like $95, usually it is, for, after the first year, do you cancel the cards if you got the points you could get?
Certain cards I do. Right now, I have 2 cards that had the first year free, and I didn't have to pay. And the next upcoming year will be $95. Right. This is not including the Sapphire Preferred, because I just pay that because I don't care. But I have 2 cards that are more recent cards that are gonna be coming up on that $95, and I put it in my calendar to cancel those a month before. Now, like I said, if I call to cancel it, they might give me an offer I can't refuse, and I might keep it. One of them was a Chase Inc. card, which is a business card, so if you have a business, no matter how big or small, you can apply for business cards too. And it had a 70,000 point bonus, and these were Chase Ultimate Rewards points, which again, I love those because they're so easy to use. And, you know, you can only use it for business expenses, so you kind of have to look at what your business spends. And so I got the bonus points, and then the fee will be coming up in a couple of months. It'll be a year since I got it, and I'll be canceling it a month before. So, not all of them. I mean, it just, you have to weigh it out. If the annual fee is worth the benefits that the card gives you, and you're really utilizing the card a lot, like I do with the Sapphire Preferred, I'll keep the card and pay it no matter what. But something like my Delta card, you know, I've kind of shied away from flying on Delta because their airplanes are super old and I don't trust them as much anymore. The last time I flew on Delta, the window was falling apart. I took a picture and I was like, this might be the last time on Delta. I don't know. No, I shouldn't trash talk Delta. It's just, it's gone downhill. And so that card has a $30 annual fee, which is not very much, but I don't think I'll be keeping the card if I'm going to pay that because I don't see myself using it a lot in the future. So, yeah, it's just a case-by-case basis. Most of my cards don't have any annual fees, so then it's kind of a no-brainer.
When you cancel a card, in the past I had an experience where I canceled the card, only they didn't cancel it, they inactivated it. I
Really?
asked to have it canceled.
Huh.
However, when I went back on, or we went back on, and looked at our credit report, here's these cards that are still listed as active, but, or well, they're listed but inactive.
Okay.
Which means that all I'd have to do is take it in and use it, and boom, it'd be active again.
Right. That's shady. They shouldn't do that.
It stunk. I think things have changed since then, but
Mhm.
when you call and cancel, how long does it take before you can tell? Can you tell the next day on your thing whether the card was canceled or?
Usually within a month. Sometimes those cancellations and things aren't even reported by the card company to the credit reporting agencies for 30 to 60 days. So I'm gonna say usually within a month you'll see that the card is canceled. And it should say canceled on the thing. It should show a payment history for however long you had it. And it'll have these little okay every single month as long as you paid it well, and then it'll stop. And then it's canceled. So, yeah, 30 to 60 days is how long it takes for the card companies to report those to the credit reporting agencies. Yeah, that's unfortunate that happened. That's really shady of them to do that. When you ask them to cancel it, they should cancel it, or give you a really good reason not to cancel it. Yeah. Other questions? Alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. What do you call it? Hacking? I mean, hacking in this business now, right now, hacking is a really negative word.
It's becoming more positive. There's a lot of positive hacking stuff going on and what I mean by that is where, the reason I call it travel hacking and the reason that those of us who do the hobby collectively call it travel hacking is because we are taking these systems that are in place for average credit card users, people who don't really look into what they are and they just casually earn some points here and there, and we maximize it. We absolutely maximize the system. We use their own system for our own gain. They get nothing extra from me. I never pay a fee, I never pay interest. I know that the businesses that I use my cards at have to pay a small fee every time I charge my card. That's the way it is whether I'm getting points or not. So, yeah. So it's called travel hacking because it takes some skill, it takes some knowledge and some time.